sufficient grain, and if you desire to nourish them by taking milk from me, you should make arrangements to bring a calf suitable for this purpose and a pot in which the milk can be kept, as well as a milkman to do the work, since I will be very much affectionate towards my calf. Your desire to take milk from me will be fulfilled. Purport by His Divine Grace, A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Prabhupada. These are nice instructions for milking a cow. The cow must first have a calf, so that out of affection for the calf, she will voluntarily give sufficient milk. There must also be an expert milkman and a suitable pot in which to keep the milk. Just as a cow cannot deliver sufficient milk without being affectionate to her calf, the earth cannot produce sufficient necessities without feeling affection for those who are Krishna conscious. Even though the earth's being in the shape of a cow may be taken figuratively, the meaning herein is very explicit. Just as a calf can derive milk from a cow, all living entities, including animals, birds, bees, reptiles, and aquatics, can receive their respective foods from the planet Earth, provided that human beings are not asat or adhrita vrata, as we have previously discussed, meaning they're not demons. When human society becomes asat, or ungodly, or devoid of Krishna consciousness, the entire world suffers. If human beings are well behaved, animals will also receive sufficient food and be happy. The ungodly human being, ignorant of his duty to give protection and food to the animals, kills them to compensate for the insufficient production of grains. Thus, no one is satisfied, and that is the cause for the present condition in today's world. Well, yeah, there's massive killing of poor animals just to satisfy the gullet of the living entities by the human beings. It's completely unnecessary. Okay, so text number 11. My dear King, may I inform you that you have to make the entire surface of the globe level. This will help me, even when the rainy season has ceased. Rainfall comes by the mercy of King Indra. Rainfall will remain on the surface of the globe, always keeping the earth moistened, and thus it will be auspicious for all kinds of production. Purport by Srila Prabhupada. King Indra of the heavenly planets is in charge of throwing thunderbolts and giving rainfall. Generally, thunderbolts are thrown on the tops of hills in order to break them to pieces. As these pieces are spread asunder, in due course of time, the surface of the globe gradually becomes fit for agriculture. Level land is especially conducive to the production of grain. Thus, the planet Earth requested Maharaja Pritha to level the surface of the earth, breaking up the highland and mountains. Yeah, it's very difficult to grow things in mountains, although it is possible. But here, if by nature the mountains are broken down into flat lands, then it's much easier to perform farming. After hearing the auspicious and pleasing words of the planet Earth, the king accepted them. He then transformed Swayambhuva into a calf and milked all the herbs and grains from the earth in the form of a cow, keeping them in his cupped hands. Text 13. Others who were as intelligent as King Prithu also took the essence out of the earthly planet. Indeed, everyone took his opportunity to follow in the footsteps of King Prithu and get whatever he desired from the planet Earth. Purport by Srila Prabhupada Ki Jai. The planet Earth is also Vasundhara. The word Vasu means wealth, and Dara means one who holds. All creatures within the earth fulfill the necessities required for human beings, and all living entities can be taken out of the earth by the proper means. As suggested by the planet Earth and accepted and initiated by King Prithu, whatever is taken from the earth, either from mines, from the surface of the globe, or from the atmosphere, should always be considered the property of the Supreme Personality of Godhead and should be used for yajna, Lord Vishnu. As soon as the process of yajna is stopped, the earth will withhold its productions, vegetables, trees, plants, fruits, flowers, other agricultural products, and minerals. As confirmed in Bhagavad Gita, the process of yajna was instituted from the beginning of creation. By the regular performance of yajna, the equal distribution of wealth, and the restriction of sense gratification, the entire world will be made peaceful and prosperous. As always mentioned in this age of Kali, the simple performance of Sankirtan Yajna, the holding of festivals as initiated by the International Society for Krishna Consciousness, should be introduced in every town and village. Intelligent men should encourage the performance of Sankirtana Yajna by their personal behavior. This means that they should follow the process of austerity by restricting themselves from illicit sex life, meat eating, gambling, and intoxication. If the intelligent men or the brahmanas of society would follow the rules and regulations, certainly the entire face of this present world, which is in such chaotic condition, would change and people would be happy and prosperous. Wow, there's a formula for happiness and prosperity. They have to give up illicit sex, meat eating, gambling, and intoxication. Yeah, I had a cousin. His name was Cousin Joe, and he was in World War II, and he was a warrior. He killed a lot of people, and he was a killer. I mean, he had that natural instinct, and he couldn't understand anything about Krishna consciousness. I tried to explain it to him, but it didn't. It didn't rest very easily in his brain, and he never became Krishna conscious. So, therefore, there are some people who have committed so many sinful acts in their life that it's impossible for them to understand Krishna consciousness, or let's say it's very difficult for them to understand Krishna consciousness after committing so many sinful activities. So here, in this purport, there's, a good recommendation. It says, As already mentioned, in this age of Kali, the simple performance of Sankirtan Yoga, the holding of festivals as initiated by the International Society for Krishna Consciousness, should be introduced in every town and village. Intelligent men should encourage the performance of Sankirtana Yoga by their personal behavior. This means that they should follow the process of austerity by restricting themselves from illicit sex life, meat eating, gambling, and intoxication. If the intelligent men or the brahmanas of society would follow the rules and regulations, certainly the entire face of this present world, which is in such chaotic condition, would change and people would be happy and prosperous. Well, yeah, give up meat eating, gambling, intoxication, and especially illicit sex life. Then follow the rules and regulations of Krishna consciousness. Then this world would be like the spiritual world. It would not be in such chaotic condition. And everything would be changed to spiritual life. And people would be happy and prosperous. Text 14. All the great sages transformed Brihaspati into a calf, and making the senses into a pot. They milk all kinds of Vedic knowledge to purify words, mind, and hearing. Boy, that's like a miracle. Brihaspati is the priest of the heavenly planets. The Vedic knowledge was received in logical order by the great sages through Brihaspati for the benefit of human society. Not only on this planet, but throughout the universe. In other words, Vedic knowledge is considered one of the necessities for human society. If human society remains satisfied simply by taking grains from the planet Earth, as well as other necessities for maintaining the body, society will not be, let's see, I'll read that again. If human society remains satisfied simply by taking grains from the planet Earth, as well as other necessities for maintaining the body, society will not be sufficiently prosperous. Humanity must have food for the mind and ear, as well as for the purpose of vibration. As far as transcendental vibrations are concerned, the essence of all Vedic knowledge is the Maha Mantra, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, 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 Hare Hare. In Kali Yuga, if this Vedic Maha Mantra is chanted regularly and heard regularly by the devotional process of Shravanam, Kirtanam, hearing and chanting, it will purify all societies, and thus humanity will be happy, both materially and spiritually. Well, I can say with let's say with all honesty that I have experienced this. Mm-hmm. If we simply chant Hare Krishna regularly and engaged in the devotional service, in other words, engaged in Shravanam Kirtanam, hearing and repeating or chanting, it will purify all societies, and thus humanity will be happy, both materially and spiritually. In ISKCON temples, we regularly chant Hare Krishna, Maha Mantra, and hear lectures given by genuine devotees. And uh, we are happy, both materially and spiritually. If this Vedic mantra is chanted regularly and heard regularly by the devotional process of Shravanam Kirtanam, hearing and repeating, it will purify all societies, and thus humanity will be happy both materially and spiritually. Well, we should print this and hand it out. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Hare Ram, Ram Ram, Hare Hare. In Kali Yuga, if this Vedic mantra, Mahamantra, is chanted regularly and heard regularly by the devotional process of Shravana and Kirtana, it will purify all societies, and thus humanity will be happy, both materially and spiritually. What? Why we say, or I say, chant Hare Krishna and be happy. So here Prabhupada has validated this statement. Okay, text 15. All the demigods made Indra, the king of heaven, into a calf, and from the earth they milked the beverage soma, which is nectar. Thus they became very powerful in mental speculation and bodily and sensual strength. Purport by His Divine Grace, A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Prabhupada. In this verse, the word soma means nectar. Soma is a kind of beverage made in the heavenly planets from the moon to the kingdoms of the demigods. In the various higher planetary systems. If drinking this soma beverage, by drinking this soma beverage, the demigods become more powerful mentally and increase their sensual power and bodily strength. The words Hiranmayana Patrina indicate that this soma beverage is not an ordinary intoxicating liquor. The demigods would not touch any kind of liquor, nor is soma a kind of drug. It is a different kind of beverage available in the heavenly planets. Soma is far different from the liquors made for demoniac people, as explained in the next verse. The sons of Diti and the demons transformed Prahlada Maharaj, who was born in an Asura family, into a calf, and they extracted various kinds of liquor and beer, which they put into a pot made of iron. Purport by Srila Prabhupada. The demons also have their own types of beverages in the form of liquors and beers, just as the demigods use samarasa for their drinking purposes. The demons born of Diti take great pleasure in drinking wine and beer. Even today, people of demoniac nature are very much addicted to liquor and beer. The name of Prahlada Maharaja is very significant in this connection because Prahlada Maharaja was born in a family of demons as the son of Hiranyakashipu. By his mercy, the demons were and still are able to have their drinks in the form of wine and beer. The word aya, iron, is very significant. Whereas the nectarian soma was put in a golden pot, the liquors and beers were put in an iron pot. Because the liquor and beer are inferior, they are not placed in placed in an iron pot, and because soma rasa is superior, it is placed in a golden pot. Haribol. The inhabitants of Gandharva Loka, the Apsara Loka, made Vishvavasu into a calf, and they drew the milk into a lotus flower pot. The milk took the shape of sweet musical art and beauty. Wow, that's amazing.
Mhm.
Text 18. The fortunate inhabitants of Pitri Muka, who preside over funeral ceremonies, made Aryama into a calf. With great faith, they milked the kavya, food offered to the ancestors, into an unbaked earthen pot. Oh boy, this is real. There's real science here. In Bhagavad Gita 9:25, it is said, Pitrin Yanti Pitrin Rita. Those who are interested in family welfare are called Pitri Rita. There is a planet called the Pritriloka, and the predominating deity of that planet is called Aryama. He is somewhat of a demigod, and by satisfying him, one can help ghostly family members develop a gross body. Those who are very sinful and attached to their family, house, village, or country do not receive a gross body made of material elements, but remain in a subtle body composed of mind, ego, and intelligence. Those who live in such subtle bodies are called ghosts. Okay, my dear devotees, now you know that ghosts actually exist. This ghostly position is very painful because the ghost has intelligence, mind, and ego, and wants to enjoy material life. But because he doesn't have a gross material body, he can only create disturbances for want of material satisfaction. Yeah, and that's why ghosts, they're always trying to enter into the body of someone who is engaged in illicit sex and intoxication so that they can enjoy sense gratification because a ghost has a subtle body, and thus needs to, let's say, uh, take control of a human body in order to enjoy sense gratification. So usually ghosts will take over the body of someone who's taking intoxication and is not clean and doesn't bathe regularly and doesn't cut their fingernails and was always talking nonsense. Uh, Ghosts will, and usually they're intoxicated, ghosts will enter into their body and take control of it and use it for their own sense gratification. That's why if you ever see someone walking down the street and talking nonsense, talking to himself, you know that that person is possessed by a ghost who's entered into his body.
Mm.
Okay, so, and here it says, Prabhupada is talking about ghosts now. Those who live in such subtle bodies are called ghosts. This ghostly position is very painful because the ghost has intelligence, mind, and ego, and wants to enjoy material life. But because he doesn't have a gross material body, he can only create disturbances for want of material satisfaction. Yeah, he's always trying to possess or enter into the body of a person who is engaging in intoxication, illicit sex, who doesn't bathe regularly, who is not Krishna conscious at all. Uh, okay, so it is the duty of family members, especially the son, to offer oblations to the demigod Aryama or to Lord Vishnu. From time in oblations means they are offering service in the form of sanctified food. It is the duty of family members, especially the son, to offer oblations to the demigod Aryama or to Lord Vishnu. From time immemorial in India, the son of a dead man goes to Gaya and at a Vishnu temple there offers oblations, meaning offering food for the benefit of his ghostly father. It is not that everyone's father becomes a ghost, but the oblation of Pinda are offered. Oblations of Pinda are offered to the lotus feet of Lord Vishnu, so that if a family member happens to become a ghost, he will be favored with a gross body. However, if one is habituated to taking the prasada of Lord Vishnu, there is no chance of his becoming a ghost or anything lower than a human being. Oh, that is great information. Now we know how to avoid becoming a ghost. We should always take prasadam and chant Hare Krishna. If one is habituated to taking the prasada of Lord Vishnu, there is no chance of his becoming a ghost or anything lower than a human being. In Vedic civilization, now you know why prasadam is so important. One general benefit of eating only prasadam is that you're guaranteed not to become a ghost. Haribol. In Vedic civilization, there is a performance called Shraddha, by which food is offered with faith and devotion. If one offers oblations with faith and devotion, either to the lotus feet of Lord Vishnu or to his representative in Pitraloka, material Aryama, one's forefathers will attain material bodies to enjoy whatever material enjoyment is due to them. In other words, they do not have to become ghosts. Yeah, so you see, the Vedic knowledge is transcendental and it is specifically to help people who are in trouble. So oftentimes, family members might become ghosts because of drinking liquor and beer and doing nonsense things. So uh, their family members or their future family members will engage in uh, performances of Shraddha. That means that food is offered with faith and devotion to Krishna. If one offers oblations, in other words, if one is fortunate enough to be given that food, if one offers oblations with faith and devotion, either to the lotus feet of Lord Vishnu or to his representative in Pitriloka Aryama, one's forefathers will attain material bodies to enjoy whatever material enjoyment is due to them. In other words, they do not have to become ghosts. Yeah, so that's why people perform this Shraddha ceremony. What is the Shraddha ceremony? They're offering sanctified food uh, uh, to their family members who have left their bodies, so that if they're in a bad position uh, because of doing nonsense, they are purified and they don't have to remain as a ghost. Okay, text 19. See, this is science. This is real science. People know how to communicate with people who have died. There it is. That's basically what it is. How to communicate with people who have died and help them by offering Mahaprashadam to them. And therefore it says, in Vedic civilization, there is a performance called Shraddha, by which food is offered with faith and devotion. Well, it's offered to Krishna with faith and devotion, and then it's offered to the loved ones that have died. If one offers oblations with faith and devotion, either to the lotus feet of Lord Vishnu or to his representatives in Pitriloka, Aryama, one's forefathers will attain material bodies to enjoy whatever material enjoyment is due to them. In other words, they do not have to become ghosts. Okay. So that's why there's Shraddha ceremony that should be performed. But actually, it's not necessary for devotees because every day they're doing Shraddha. They're offering the food first to Krishna, and then they're praying, and then they take part in the prasad. Therefore, it says that it says, if one offers oblations with faith and devotion, either to the lotus feet of Lord Vishnu or to his representative in Pitriloka, Aryama, one's forefathers will attain material bodies to enjoy whatever material enjoyment is due to them. In other words, they do not have to become ghosts. Okay, well, that's why they have ceremony of Shraddha in Hinduism. After this, the inhabitants of Siddhaloka, as well as the inhabitants of Vidyadhara Loka, transformed the great sage Kapila into a calf, and making the whole sky into a pot, they milked out specific yogic mystic powers, beginning with anima. Indeed, the inhabitants of Vidyadhara Loka acquired the arts of flying in the sky. Purport by Srila Prabhupada. The inhabitants of both Siddhaloka and Vidyadharaloka are naturally endowed with mystic yogic powers, by which they not only can fly in outer space without a vehicle, but can also fly from one planet to another simply by exerting their will. Just as fish can swim within water, the residents of Vidyadharaloka can swim in the ocean of air. As far as they are endowed with all mystic. The yogis in this planet practice the eightfold yogic mysticism, namely Yama, Niyama, Asana, Pranayama, Pratyahara, Dharana, Dhyana, and Samadhi. By regularly practicing the yogic processes, one after another, the yogis attain various perfections. They can become smaller than the smallest, heavier than the heaviest, etc. They can even manufacture a planet, get whatever they like, and control whatever man they want. All the residents of Siddhaloka are naturally endowed with these mystic yogic powers. It is certainly a very wonderful thing if we see a person on this planet flying in the sky without a vehicle. But in Vidyadhara Loka, such flying is as commonplace as a bird's flying in the sky. Similarly, in Siddhaloka, all the inhabitants are great yogis, perfect in mystic power. Well, there is a place like that. Otherwise, how can he be explaining it? Such things exist. The name of Kapila Muni is significant in this verse because he was the expounder of the Sankhya philosophical system, and his father, Kardama Muni, was a great yogi and mystic. Indeed, Kardama Muni prepared a great airplane, which was as large as a small town and had various gardens, palatial buildings, servants, and maidservants. With all this paraphernalia, Kapila Deva's mother, Devhuti, and his father, Kardama Muni, traveled all over the universes and visited different planets. So they had a transcendental type, or let's say a mystical type uh, uh, of Brahmana, or something that could fly through the sky that was as big as a small town, with various gardens, palatial buildings, servants, and maidservants. And with all this paraphernalia, Kapila Deva's mother, Devhuti, and his father, Kardama Muni, traveled all over the universes and visited different planets. Wow. There are many things we don't know that exist. But now we know because we're reading Srimad Bhagavatam. Others also, the inhabitants of planets known as Kim Purusha Loka, made the demon Maya into a calf, and they milked out mystic powers by which one can disappear immediately from another's vision and appear again in a different form. Purport by Srila Prabhupada. It is said that the inhabitants of Kim Purusha Loka can perform many wonderful mystic demonstrations. In other words, they can exhibit as many wonderful things as one can imagine. The inhabitants of this planet can do whatever they like or whatever they imagine. Such powers are also mystic powers. The possession of such mystic power is called Isita. The demons generally learn such mystic powers by the practice of yoga. In the Dasama Skanda, the 10th canto of Srimad Bhagavatam, there is a vivid description of how the demons appear before Krishna in various wonderful forms. For instance, Bakasura appeared before Krishna and his coward boyfriends as a gigantic crane. A crane is a big bird. While present on this planet, Lord Krishna had to fight with many demons who could exhibit the wonderful mystic powers of Kim Purusha Loka. Although the inhabitants of King Purusha Loka are naturally endowed with such powers, one can attain these powers on this planet by performing different yogic practices. Don't waste your time doing it because those type of practices are not eternal. Then the yakshas, rakshasas, ghosts, and witches who are habitated to eating flesh transformed Lord Shiva's incarnation, Rudra, Bhutanata, into a calf and milked out beverages made of blood and put them in a pot made of skulls. Oh my God. Horrible. Purport. There are some types of living entities in the form of human beings whose living conditions and eatables are most abominable. Generally, they eat flesh and fermented blood, which is mentioned in this verse as Kshatrajasavam. The leaders of such degraded men known as yakshas, rakshasas, bhutas, and pisachas are all in the mode of ignorance. They have been placed under the control of Rudra. Rudra is an incarnation of Lord Shiva and is in charge of the mode of ignorance in material nature. Another name of Lord Shiva is Bhutanatha, meaning master of ghosts. Rudra was born from between Brahma's eyes when Brahma was very angry at the four Kumaras. Wow. Text 22. There are cobras and snakes without hoods, large snakes, scorpions, and many other poisonous animals took poison out of the earth planet as their milk and kept this poison in snake holes. They made a calf out of takshaka. Takshaka is like a big snake. Purport. Within this material world, there are various types of living entities, and the different types of reptiles and scorpions mentioned in this verse are also provided with their sustenance by the arrangement of the Supreme Personality of God. The point is that everyone is taking his eatables from the planet Earth according to one's association with the material qualities. One develops a certain type of character. Well, material qualities are goodness, passion, and ignorance. And one develops a certain type of character. Paya panam bujanganar burjanganam. If one feeds a serpent milk, the snake will simply increase his venom. However, if one supplies milk to a talented sage or saint, the sage will develop finer brain tissues by which he can contemplate higher spiritual life. Well, there's a good explanation of why milk is important to develop good intelligence. Thus, the Lord is supplying everyone food, but according to the living entity's association with the modes of material nature, the living entity develops his specific character. Okay, so everything depends upon the association one has in life. If one is associating with the lower modes of material nature, they become a demon. If they associate with the higher modes of devotional service and devotees, they become devotees. Everything depends on the living entity's association with the different modes of material nature and the different types of living entities. Therefore, it says, thus the Lord is supplying everyone food, but according to the living entity's association with the modes of material nature, the living entity develops his specific character. Well, we should always be given prasadam, and the prasadam should be the result of yajna. In other words, it's been offered to Krishna with love and devotion, and then Krishna offers it back as his prasadam. So prasadam is not food in the ordinary sense. Prasadam is food that's been offered first to Krishna with love and devotion, and then Krishna offers it back as prasadam or his mercy. Prasadam actually means mercy from the Lord. If we just eat food, then this reciprocal situation is not experienced. But when we offer the food first to Krishna, and it has to be food in the mode of goodness, there's no meat, fish, eggs, and all that nonsense. That's just sattvic food like milk and vegetables and nuts and grains and things like that. They transform into prasadam by offering them to the Lord first, and then the Lord offers it back as his holy prasadam. Therefore, it says, Paya panam pujan ganam. If one feeds a serpent milk, the snake will simply increase his venom. However, if one supplies milk to a talented sage or saint, the sage will develop finer brain issues by which he can contemplate higher spiritual life. Yeah, so you don't offer Coca-Cola to a saintly person, but you can offer milk so that the sage will develop finer brain tissues by which he can contemplate higher spiritual life. And there you are. That is the best. Let's say best concept of milk. Milk can produce finer brain tissues by which a person can contemplate higher spiritual life and higher spiritual concepts. Thus, the Lord is supplying everyone food, but according to the living entity's association with the modes of material nature, the living entity develops its specific character. Yes. Well, I remember when I was a kid, my family gave me milk, gave me a little bit of milk, but they also gave me meat. So I was like a demon, you know. I was not Krishna conscious at all. But voluntarily, without even knowing anything about Krishna consciousness, I gave up eating meat. From that point on, my life changed. Up to that point, I was always suffering. But when I gave up eating meat voluntarily, then I met the devotees. I remember I just decided I'm not going to eat meat anymore. Although I was given meat every day in my family, I decided, I'm not going to eat it anymore. And when I did that, I met the devotees. And thank God I was able to give up all those bad habits: meat eating, gambling, illicit sex, intoxication, and all the rest of the things that go along with that, lying, cheating, gambling, and so forth. Thus, the Lord is supplying everyone food, but according to the living entity's association with the modes of material nature, the living entity develops his specific character. Well, our association should be with devotees, because here it's saying, but according to the living entity's association with the modes of material nature, the living entity develops his specific character. So we should associate only with people who are in the mode of goodness. And even better than that, we should associate with people who are in the transcendental mode of goodness or Krishna consciousness. And then that should develop our specific character. If we associate with low-class people who avoid Krishna consciousness, then we will become a demon, just like them. So therefore it says here, thus the Lord is supplying everyone food, but according to the living entity's association with the modes of material nature, the living entity develops his specific character. So the Lord is supplying food to everyone, but according to the living entity's association with the modes of material nature, the living entity develops its specific character. So therefore, we should associate only with devotees and have only Krishna prasadam. That will help us to develop a specific character. What is that specific character? We become Krishna conscious. The four-legged animals, like the cows, made a calf out of the bull who carries Lord Shiva and made a milking pot out of the forest. Thus, they got fresh green grasses to eat. Ferocious animals like tigers transformed a lion into a calf. Well, ferocious animals like tigers transformed a lion into a calf, and thus they were able to get flesh for milk. The birds made a calf out of Garuda and took milk from the planet Earth in the form of moving insects and non-moving plants and grasses. Wow, this is interesting. Purport. There are many carnivorous birds, that means birds that eat flesh, and descended from Garuda, the winged carrier of Lord Vishnu. Indeed, there is a particular type of bird that is very fond of eating monkeys. Eagles are fond of eating goats. And of course, many birds eat only fruits and berries. Therefore, the word karam, referring to moving animals, and akaram, referring to grasses, fruits, vegetables, are mentioned in this verse. Haribol. Text 25. The trees made a calf out of the banyan tree, and thus they derived milk in the form of delicious juices. The mountains transformed the Himalayas into a calf, and they milked a variety of minerals into a pot made of the peaks of hills. Wow. Just imagine the things that are going on in this world that we have absolutely no consciousness of. But because we're reading Srimad Bhagavatam, now we're learning about all these supernatural things. Text 26. The planet Earth supplied everyone its respective food. During the time of King Prithu, the earth was fully under the control of the king. Thus, all the inhabitants of the earth could get their food supply by creating various types of calves and putting their particular types of milk in various pots. Why? You see, it's always about cows and milk. Yeah, there's different types of milk. Like, for example, rats, they also have milk. Mm-hmm. But if you drink rat milk, yeah, it's not very good. Okay, purport by Srila Prabhupada. This is evidence that the Lord supplies food to everyone, as confirmed in the Vedas. Eko bahunam yo vidadati kaman. Although the Lord is one, he is supplying all necessities to everyone through the medium of the planet Earth. There are certain varieties of living entities on different planets, and they all derive their eatables from their planets in different forms. On the basis of these descriptions, how can one assume that there is no living entity on the moon? Every moon is earthly because being composed of the five elements: earth, water, fire, air, ether, so forth. Every planet produces different types of food according to the needs of its residents. According to the Vedic Shastras, it is not true that the moon does not produce food or that no living entity is living there. Yeah, I mean, all the big scientists and and so-called pundits and so forth, they haven't figured out what's going on in the universe. But to understand what's going on in the universe, you have to read Srimad Bhagavatam. Srimad Bhagavatam is transcendental literature. It's not mundane literature. And it's not based on what you would call research. Prabhupada said, you don't have to research anything. Everything already has been researched. You simply have to accept the Vedic version of the truth, because that has already been researched and validated as the truth. Text 27, and we'll end with this. My dear Vidura, chief of the Kurus, in this way, King Prithu and all the others who subsist on food created different types of calves and milk out their respective eatables. Thus they received their various foodstuffs, which were symbolized as milk. I'll read one more. Thereafter, King Prithu was very satisfied with planet Earth, for she sufficiently supplied all food to various living entities. Thus, he developed an affection for the planet Earth, just as if she were his own daughter. Wow. It's wonderful. After this, the king of all kings, Maharaj Prithu, leveled all rough places on the surface of the globe by breaking up the hills with the strength of his bow. By his grace, the surface of the globe almost became flat. Generally, the mountainous and hilly portions of the earth are made flat by the striking of thunderbolts. Generally, this is the business of King Indra of the heavenly planets. But King Prithu, an incarnation of the Supreme Personality of Godhead, did not wait for King Indra to break up the hills and mountains, but did so himself by using his strong bow. And why would he do that, to break up the hills and the mountains? Well, when you have flat land, you can grow nice vegetables and fruits and so many things. It's much more difficult when you have hills and mountains, right? To all the citizens of the state, King Prithu was as good as a father. See, that's the way to be a leader. You have to be like a father to all living entities. Thus, he was visibly engaged in giving them proper subsistence and proper employment for subsistence. After leveling the surface of the globe, he earmarked different places for residential quarters, inasmuch as they were desirable. Wow, he was a good king, very good king. We need more King Prithus. In this way, the king founded many types of villages, settlements, and towns with built forts, residences for cowherdsmen, stables for the animals, and places for the royal camps, mining places, agricultural towns, and mountain villages. See, now what we're reading here, it's always coming down to cows and holy people. That's culture. That's the real culture. Cows and holy people. Before the reign of King Prithu, there was no planned arrangement for different cities, villages, pasturing grounds, etc. Everything was scattered, and everyone constructed his residential quarters according to his own convenience. However, since King Prithu, plans were made for towns and however, since King Prithu, plans were made for towns and villages. Purport by Srila Prabhupada. From this statement, it appears that town and village planning is not new, but has been coming down since the time of King Prithu. In India, we can see regular planning methods evident in very old cities. In Srimad Bhagavatam, there are many descriptions of such ancient cities. Even 5,000 years ago, Lord Krishna's capital, Dwarka, was well planned, and similar other cities, Mathura and Hastinapur, now New Delhi, were all well planned. Thus, the planning of cities and towns is not a modern innovation, but was existing in bygone ages. Yeah, that's for sure. There's a lot of what you would call ancient cities that have been discovered, and they were organized very nicely, right? They had uh, like everything they needed to maintain the city. So you have to have water supply, you have to have uh, trees, you have to have uh, different amenities to have a town. It can't be like a desert, right? So people usually build towns on the banks of rivers. So now you have steady supply of water. They don't build a town in the middle of a desert, right? I mean, they might, they're crazy, but if they want to have
What are the sin cities?
sin cities, well, we got plenty of sin cities in America. From this statement, it appears that town and city planning is not new, but has been coming down since the time of King Prithu. In India, we can see regular planning methods evident in very old cities. In Srimad Bhagavatam, there are many descriptions of such ancient cities. Even 5,000 years ago, Lord Krishna's capital, Dwarka, was well planned, and similar other cities, Mathura and Hastinapur, now New Delhi, were also well planned. Thus, the planning of cities and towns is not a modern innovation, but was existing in bygone ages. Thus end the Bhaktivedanta purports of the fourth canto, 18th chapter of the Srimad Bhagavatam, entitled Prithu Maharaja Milks the Planet Earth. The planet milks the Earth planet. Jai Srila Prabhupada Ki Jai. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare. Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Okay, so our takeaway from today is all the citizens of the state, to all the citizens of the state, King Prithu was as good as a father. Thus, he was visibly engaged in giving them proper subsistence and proper employment for subsistence. After leveling the surface of the globe, he earmarked different places for residential quarters, inasmuch as they were desirable. See, now he is a perfect king. He's the real model of a perfect king. Why? Because he acted as a father of all the living entities. He was visibly engaged in giving them proper subsistence and proper employment for subsistence. After leveling the surface of the earth, yeah, I mean, if you have level ground, you can do a lot of things with it. If you have mountainous ground, it's very difficult. I mean, you can still do things in mountainous ground, but it's much more difficult. If you have nice flat land, you can make really nice you can grow a lot of vegetables and fruits and trees and things like that. So, therefore, it says here that after leveling the surface of the globe, he earmarked different places for residential quarters inasmuch as they were desirable. Okay, so having flat land is very good. If you're going to buy a property and it's all mountainous, it's going to be very difficult to produce fruits and vegetables and things. I mean, you can, but it's very difficult. But if you have nice, fertile, flat ground, flat earth, it's very easy to plow and to make nice fruits and vegetables and everything. Haribol. Okay, we'll stop there, but only for a few hours and take it up again 11 hours from now. Any questions? Any comments?
It's interesting. I never understood that the thunderbolts. There is a
Makes the
purpose.
land flat.
Yeah.
Yeah. Generally, the mountainous and hilly portions of Earth are made flat by the striking of thunderbolts. Generally, this is the business of King Indra of the heavenly planets. But King Prithu, an incarnation of the Supreme Personality of Godhead, did not wait for King Indra to break up the hills and mountains, but did so himself by using his strong bow. Whoa, that just shows you how powerful a bow and arrow can be. But they're not regular bows and arrows. Okay, so that's our takeaway from today. Generally, the mountainous and hilly portions of the earth are made flat by striking of thunderbolts. Generally, this is the business of King Indra of the heavenly planets. But King Prithu, an incarnation of the Supreme Personality of Godhead, did not wait for King Indra to break up the hills and mountains, but did so himself by using his strong bow. Well, you can imagine how powerful the bow of King Prithu is. He can break up mountains and make them into flat land so that people can do nice farming and make life a lot easier. Haribol. All glories to Srila Prabhupada Ki Jai. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama. Any questions?
One question, Maharaj.
Yeah.
Text 22.
Yeah.
In purport, where the example of snake is drinking milk versus a sage is drinking milk. So how to understand this example, Maharaj? Like, is snake in the mode of ignorance? That's the reason milk is acting as a poison, and saint is in mode of goodness. That's the reason same milk is acting as acting as like to develop the finer brain tissues. So is that the understanding of this example? The milk is milk, but snake versus
It says there are various types of living entities and different types of reptiles and scorpions mentioned in this verse are also provided with their sustenance by the arrangement of Supreme Personality Godhead. The point is that everyone is taking his eatables from the planet Earth according to one's association with the material qualities, goodness, passion, and ignorance. One develops a certain type of character. If one feeds a serpent milk, the snake will simply increase his venom. However, if one supplies milk to a talented sage or saint, the sage will develop finer brain tissues by which he can contemplate higher spiritual life. Thus, the Lord is supplying everyone food, but according to the Living Entities Association, with the modes of material nature, the living entity develops his specific character. So there's two takeaways here. One, children should always be given. Two, children should be taught to associate only with sadhus, saintly people, and avoid the association of unholy people. So if you do those two things, feed children only milk and other foods in the mode of goodness, and give them a chance to associate with saintly people, they grow up to be good people. But if they grow up watching television and find the movies, cell phones, and so forth, and seeing and hearing all kinds of nonsense things, and then eventually doing nonsense things, they become contaminated. And it's very hard to purify them after being contaminated like that. So our takeaway. According to one's association with the material qualities, meaning goodness, passion, and interest, one develops a certain type of character. If one feeds a serpent milk, the snake will simply increase its venom. However, if one supplies milk to a talented sage or saint, the sage will develop finer brain tissues by which he can contemplate higher spiritual life. Thus, the Lord is supplying everyone food, but according to the Living Entities Association with the modes of material nature, the living entity develops his specific character. That's why milk is generally given to young children. You don't give a new baby Coca-Cola. You give it to a young baby mother's milk, and afterwards cow milk. That way, the child grows to be healthy and is inclined towards purity or pure things, not horrible things. But nowadays, like sodas, Coca-Cola, and things like that, they become instead of drinking milk, they're drinking Coke. That's a big mistake. We should drink milk throughout our whole life. Very important. Okay, thank you very much. We will stop there unless there's some questions or comments. If not, then we will see each other 11 hours from now and continue hearing nectar, Srimad Bhagavatam, Bhagavad Gita. This is nice to hear nectar every day.
It's a real nectar.
Yeah. We don't need television. We got something better than television. We have Bhagavad Gita and Srimad Bhagavatam. Much better.